Bill, our host for our first TED Talk.
Good evening, ISLAites, friends, family. Morning. Good morning, ISLAites, friends, family, parents who really hope that their children got the project done on time. Welcome to the first ever TED event! Now, our first speaker needs no introduction, but I'll give her one anyway. One of my greatest friends and the sweetest person you'll ever meet. Our first ever TED Talk will be given by my friend Tess, presenting sharks and their demonization.
Coconuts, New Yorkers, and a hippopotamus. What does this list have in common? All things that are more likely to kill you than a shark. Sharks are often seen as cruel or malicious creatures when this simply isn't true. Today, let's dive into the realities. My experience with sharks, the statistics, and the fear. I've had my own personal experience with sharks, giving me a deep and personal connection to them. Back in 2020, I flew to Australia to visit my dad. He took me out on the Great Barrier Reef, which I've had the privilege of visiting many times, although this experience will always be my favorite. He took me out for a day trip to snorkel at Fitzroy Island, an island known for its friendly sea turtles, its abundance of fish, and its beautiful reefs. Although most importantly to me, the friendly reef sharks. Before that day, I had been terrified of sharks, but in that moment when I was snorkeling right above two black-tip reef sharks, I realized that they had no ill intentions towards me and they simply wanted to swim. The idea that all sharks are dangerous is a common misconception, although that list that I mentioned earlier are all things that are more likely to kill you than a shark. So let's get into that. Sharks are often seen as dangerous, yet coconuts kill 150 people per year, whereas sharks kill around 10. Yet you don't see any movies about killer coconuts, but you see several about sharks every year. Yet, to be quite frank, I would find a movie about evil coconuts trying to take over the world just as, if not more engaging than one about shark attacks. The odds of being attacked by a shark are around 23%, whereas the odds of being attacked by a hippopotamus during an encounter are more like 29 to 87%, according to a CNN article. As someone who has swum with sharks, they have no ill intentions towards you, although there have been attacks, yes, but it's often not the shark's fault. Here are some tips to avoid being attacked by a shark when you are swimming near one. First of all, you want to avoid panicking, as that will make you seem more like prey. Second of all, you're going to want to avoid wearing jewelry, as both sharks and fish are attracted to shiny things. And lastly, avoid swimming at twilight or nighttime, as that is when sharks are most active. Although at the end of the day, if you are swimming in an area where sharks are known to be seen, just always be cautious. Sharks fascinate me, but are often misunderstood because of people encountering them and doing the wrong thing. I wanted to do this talk to help remove the stigma around the animal, although please keep in mind it is still a wild animal. They can still be provoked, though I hope I've changed some minds about sharks.
Thank you, Tess. And although I don't think I'm personally ready to go face-to-face with a shark, I can't help but admit they're adorable in pictures far, far away from me. Now, our next speaker is also a good friend of mine. Don't worry, he won't bite. His name is Itai, and he will be presenting Paint Your Own Reality. Ooh.
Imagine, there's a painting on the wall. Oh, thank you. A blob of solid color. It almost looks like somebody spilled coffee on canvas. Seems like a horrible painting, right? What if it was painted by Leonardo da Vinci himself, testing his brushstrokes right before painting the Mona Lisa? Whether you see a stain or a story is completely dependent on what you're looking for. Most of the time, we aren't looking from specific angles. We're living life in the moment, experiencing everything through the program we call the brain. A magnificent piece of code written by none other than itself. Here comes the question. Does the brain have personality, or does it act as a calculator for the personality? Here's a hint. You are your brain. The subconscious is not an entirely different being. It's just a collage of all of you, past and present. The code was written with all of your experiences and thoughts. You may not have directly written it, but you were the source. Your subconscious never stops changing throughout your whole life, and it's never even fully in control. It's a symbiotic relationship between feeling and reason. If you start thinking negatively, you become sad. And if you're sad, you start thinking negatively. Perspective is useful for much more than just affecting your mood. It affects your reality. For example, if you're sick, looking at it from a point of getting better instead of getting worse actually motivates your immune system to work harder. There's a famous Plato quote. You cannot control what happens, only how you react to it. How you react to something controls what you think happens. What you perceive becomes your own personal truth. You paint your own reality. Every moment, every feeling, every thought is a brushstroke on the canvas of your life. You may not choose every color or brush, but that shouldn't discard the painting's beauty. You may think you can't control this at all, but like I said, your subconscious is still you. You have all the power. Embrace your inner painter and create the masterpiece that is you.
Thank you, Etonic. I find myself pondering about my life every day, and you know what? I think I'm living a good one. Now that you can see your life through a new lens, how would it feel like to see the world built by someone else inside your head? Don't worry, there's no crazy necessary, just an imagination and a want to read a good book. Next up is Leia, presenting the beauty of reading books.
As the renowned author George R.R. Martin once said, "A reader lives 1,000 lives. The man who never reads only lives one." Let's ponder on these words for a moment. Each page turned, each story embraced, opens up a whole new world to explore, imagine, and grow. Did you know that reading for pleasure has been scientifically proven to reduce stress levels by 68%? Yes, that's right. In a world filled with chaos and constant stimulation, the simple act of diving into a good book can be your ultimate escape. When I was younger, I always resented reading, mostly because of school. Reading pieces of paper that I'd forget about in the next 3 months just didn't make sense to me. It felt as if I was climbing the biggest, steepest, slippery mountain ever. And so, as I was presented to this mountain, I looked at it and said, I don't want to do that, or I can't do that. The mountain's too tall. But that's what we all say. When I was younger, my mother had bought me a book based on a real story. And this was the story of a young woman named Waris Dier, who was a nomad in Somalia. And in 1983, at age 18, she became a model in New York. On May 26, 2023, I started a TikTok page dedicated to books where I would do book reviews, book recommendations, comedy, amongst other things. It is also around the time that I found my spark of interest for books, revolving around fantasy and romance. The book series that actually got me into loving books is a book series called the Shatter Me series. It had everything I could have asked for. Romance, superpowers, a dystopian world, and the growth of a young woman whose powers could be used to destroy or save the world. Isn't that amazing, ladies? Woman power? Reading is important for the well-being and development of the human brain. In our over-internet confined and fast-paced world, where screens dominate our attention span and distractions abound, carving time for leisure, reading is more crucial than ever. Reading for enjoyment transports readers to a world beyond their immediate surroundings. Whether it's reading a captivating novel, or exploring the wonders of science fiction, or even learning about history through a gripping narrative, reading is good for the well-being of all of us. Even if, as youngsters, we don't like it, it's quite amazing, actually. I've been there. Now that I am older, I have found my interest and passion for reading. Now, when I read, I am able to see pictures of how the characters look, how tall, vast, and green trees can be. I hear voices filled with love, anger, grief, sadness, and laughter. I can feel what's happening in the story I dive into. How grass smells after a rainy day. You might think I sound crazy, but it's true. I don't have an explanation for it, but I'm sure I'm not the only one out there. Anybody else here able to see pictures? Yeah? You see? I'm not alone. Now, this is the end of my story. Grab a book, take notes, feel, and let the book take you away. Far, far away.
Wow, I can really see myself fighting that orc. Almost. But it's not just in books where you can find the most amazing stories. It's in your friends and family. And today, it will be from Ezekiel, presenting my story.
It all began on June 3rd, 2019, when two Dominican teenagers stepped foot into ISLA Academy for the very first time, in search of an opportunity to gain a scholarship to achieve a better education. Markendi, a good friend of mine, and me, Ezekiel Jesurum Mora. The moment I walked in, I could feel the cool breeze going through my body, and with every breath, I could smell the oceanic, salty, and refreshing tropical vibes that the school transmits. As I walked through the halls that day, I couldn't shake the feeling that ISLA was more than just a school. It felt like something deeper, something akin to a second home. And it wasn't just the place, but the people that surrounded you. At ISLA, unlike public schools in the art, you can grow emotionally wise. You get the chance to find and see yourself from an inside perspective. At first, being in ISLA felt like I was out of place, and I guess it was just me, through experiencing what it was being one with my inner self. Over time, I realized that the essence of ISLA is more than just mere words. It's a feeling, an experience, a journey, and each of us has our own unique way of describing what it means to us. Students constantly use words such as freedom, unique, cozy, and even diverse to describe it. As days turned into weeks and weeks into months, I found myself immersed in assignments. But amidst the academic hustle, I also found moments of self-discovery, in which my inner self was turned against me, filling my head with ideas, crazy ideas. You're not good enough, you'll fail, you'll not finish. Those confusing emotions followed to be part of me for a long time, and that constant feeling of wanting to be there, but feeling like I really didn't deserve to be there. Persistently, I brushed aside those sensations, yet each time I stumbled in completing a task, its presence loomed larger, until it became undeniable. Persistent reminders urging me to acknowledge their significance. I spent a lot of time fighting through and disregarding those negative thoughts, because as someone with a Dominican background like mine, I really know the struggle and how difficult it can be to gain a worthy education. Being in a Dominican public school means that strong values isn't a concept you'll hear around often. Teachers tend to engage less in making sure you learn something, and the system is mostly designed to raise workers, not thinkers. As a result of that, I allow myself to experience what ISLA was, because as John Locke once said, no man's knowledge goes far beyond his experience. So I stood my ground against those constant emotional battles, because deep in me, I knew that this was just a phase of the process for a greater good. This journey helped me discover more about myself than ever before. I learned the importance of resting and regaining strength, instead of just quitting when faced with scenarios that, at the moment, seemed very challenging. There was a time when I sat down with my dad and told him that I honestly didn't think I had what it took to be at ISLA. He talked me through and explained to me that this was a one-in-a-million opportunity, and that things in life won't always come at a low price. Later, that part of my life turned into a process of transitioning into a mindset in where I kept going even when I felt beaten down, ultimately showcasing the resilience within me. At the end of the day, I concluded that all I was lacking was a purpose, a reason to keep going, and that was making both my mom and my dad proud, to show them that all they worked for to raise me, it's paying off, and it will continue like that. And just like Napoleon Hill once said, the starting point of all achievements is desire. Keep this constantly in mind. Weak desires bring weak results, just as a small fire makes a small amount of heat.
Well, I can say for certain that going to this school has definitely helped me learn to love to learn. It also helped me learn to love those around me, my friends, my family, including my beautiful sister over there. It taught me to enjoy being and start learning to be the best version of myself. But it's not just where you are, it's who you are. You have to be driven, you have to be disciplined. And who better to talk about discipline than the two most disciplined people I know? Welcome Luke and Zaire, presenting discipline.
Motivation is a reason for acting or behaving in a particular way. It's something we've all felt.
January 1st comes along, and we're all super pumped to start the gym, join a sports team, start a business, and accomplish our goals.
But what about April 11th?
Yeah, that's today.
Most of us have already forgotten our goals, much less acted upon them. It's only been 101 days and more than a quarter of our year's gone.
Everyone wants to be great, no one wants to work. Motivation isn't permanent. That's where discipline comes in. Discipline and motivation are words that make you think a little differently. When I say the words discipline and motivation, you think of people waking up at crazy hours in the morning to run.
Or boxers training super hard for a fight.
But if I was to phrase it differently, how would you think differently?
Motivation is really just doing something when you feel like it.
Discipline is doing something even when you don't want to do it.
For me, I don't always want to go to soccer practice.
Or the gym.
Or even to school.
But I do. Because I know that if you want to be the best, you need to outwork the rest.
To set yourself apart from the rest, you need to have discipline. The discipline to do something even when you don't want to. For all those here who want to become great, there's a secret I'm going to tell you.
It's one that we all know and one that we all hate.
You just have to outwork your competition.
You don't need to be 6'5",
You don't have to be super smart.
and you don't need to be in the gym for 5 hours a day.
You, however, have to keep working to improve.
Work when you don't want to.
Work when you're tired.
Keep working when they're resting.
On paper, it sounds easy,
Even when you start, it feels easy.
but it's hard to find motivation when you're tired, sore, hurt, mentally exhausted, and feel like quitting.
So get rid of it. Lose that motivation. Find something deeper within yourself. Find that discipline.
You can either live with the pain of unaccomplished goals,
Or with the pain of accomplishing your goals. Both hurt, but one makes you weak and the other makes you unstoppable.
David Goggins puts discipline over motivation to achieve feats deemed humanly impossible.
Regarded as one of the best ultramarathon runners in the history of the sport,
Running 101 miles in 19 hours.
and previously holding the world record for pull-ups, 4,030 in just 17 hours.
His insane mentality took him from a 300-pound 21-year-old spraying for cockroaches to a firefighter, ultramarathon runner, and Navy SEAL at 41 years old.
But not everyone knows David Goggins, so I'll use a more local example. A student from our school, Sarah,
Sarah's someone who's very disciplined.
going to soccer practice, the gym, and working on our college level courses.
Sarah doesn't always want to go out and do her work, but she does.
She knows the hard work pays off, so she puts in the hours and doesn't stop until she's finished.
A truly exemplary student who shows that discipline pays off.
I hope we've motivated no one here. If you're motivated, you haven't been listening.
We're here to inspire change.
But the first step is always the biggest and most difficult. But you can do it.
You just need to be disciplined.
We've told you you can do it. We've told you how.
Now just go do it.
We did.
Wow, that got me pumped. I'm ready to do it. I'm ready to go out there and then, start a business and travel the world. But what if my parents are afraid to let me travel the world right now? Or go out and meet new people without them holding my hand? Well, I guess, who can I talk to about this? I think I know one person that I can talk to about this. I can talk to Avery. Yeah, I'll go to Avery, presenting Moving Abroad as a Teenager.
Life might be difficult for a while, but I would tough it out, because living in a foreign country is one of those things that everyone should experience at least once in their life. This is a quote by David Seegers, who along with 3.6% of the global population live abroad. Moving abroad as a teenager was full of ups and downs. One minute you love it, the next you're crying because you miss your family. Adolescence is a very transformative period in our lives. We experience psychological, physical, and behavioral growth. Our brains are developing, we're going through puberty, and we discover who we are as a person, supposedly. This can affect how we feel about moving abroad and the fact that you have to leave everything that you've ever known. It's a weird thought. However, I believe it's a good thing, and it can help change your perspective on life. But this is open for interpretation, so I want you guys to listen and form your own opinions. If I didn't move to the Dominican Republic, it's not very likely that I would be learning a second language. And if I were, it definitely would not have been Spanish. You see, moving abroad opens you up to opportunities such as this that you would never have if you stayed in your home country forever. Making and keeping real friends as a teenager is very difficult. And when you move abroad, the difficulty is only elevated. You lose the element of stability in your friendships. People are always coming and going, and it sucks. However, this is how you find out who your real friends are. You realize who you truly miss and take time to reach out to, as well as who takes time to reach out to you. Your real friends are the ones you can go many months, maybe even years without seeing, and pick up right where you left off. For me, that's how it is with my best friend Brooklyn. We live over 5,000 kilometers away from each other, and every time we see each other again, it's like no time has passed. Moving abroad helped me become less materialistic. It made me realize that I don't need the newest everything or a certain brand to make me happy. It also helped me save a lot of money, because those shopping trips back in Canada were hurting my bank account. Learning your priorities at a young age is a very valuable thing. Moving abroad is very beneficial for your future, not only with post-secondary education, but also with future employers. It helps show them that you're more flexible and adaptable than the average person. It also helps you develop a set of cross-cultural communication skills, which makes you more relatable to more groups. Now, it may not seem like it to everyone, but moving abroad is truly such a cool and unique experience. The opportunity to be completely immersed in a new culture and way of life, while trying lots of good foods that you may become obsessed with, for me, that's tostones, empanadas, and fried cheese. Now, with all this in mind, think about the fact that an opportunity like this leaves you with new skills, memories, and lessons that you can carry with you for the rest of your life.
Man, I'm so glad I moved here. Not just for the sights and for the people, but also for food. God, I'm hungry right now even. But being able to be with my family and cook with them and be able to share my recipes, God, there's so much power in that. And you know what? I think I'll leave it up to Sarah to tell you the power of nutrition and food.
What do all humans on the planet have in common, yet is extremely different in each country, each region, each person, each individual, yet brings all of us here together today? Anyone? Yes, it's food. Certain people's first memory were riding a bike, learning how to swim, or their first day of kindergarten. For me, it was attempting to make sushi rolls with my dad and flipping crepes with my mom. My childhood memories started in the kitchen. It is certainly thanks to that passion passed on to me that cuisine has become more than just an interest. Cuisine is a form of expression, is a door to a world of imagination, creation, and discovery. Trying endless flavor combination, discovering new spices, and mastering innovating cooking techniques. However, when it comes to food, I don't only enjoy cooking it, but also eating it. I believe that gastronomy allows you to share with people. I enjoy going out to dinner with my friends on a Friday night to a favorite restaurant on the beach, listening to the sound of waves gently crashing against the shore as we share a delicious meal under the starlit sky. Now picture this. It's 3 a.m. and I find myself in the kitchen with my sister. The freshly aroma of freshly cooked pasta wafting through the air. Despite the late hour, we trade jokes and memories, forging a bond that's as comforting as the meal we're preparing. And even the entertaining moments I experienced with my mom's French side of the family, where you never really leave the table because after 4 hours of eating and talking, it's already dinner time. These moments, whether in a bustling restaurant or in the quiet of our own home, the true joy of gastronomy is in the shared experiences and connections it creates. However, we recognize that food does not only unite us, but also sustains our bodies, ensuring our health and vitality. Nutrition plays a key role in our health. It allows our bones to be well calcified, our muscles to have vital energy, and our organs to function correctly. The food we consume also impacts our brain, how much energy we have, and even our mood. The microbiota is responsible for this. They're a community of microorganisms located in our digestive system that connects with our brain through the gut-brain axis, affecting our mood. Now, for the people who know me, sports are a significant part of my identity. But how does this exactly relate to food? Well, nutrition is one of the fundamental pillars of athletic performance. Just as race cars use premium gasoline for peak performances, our bodies need well-nourishing food for optimal athletic performance. Furthermore, the food we consume does not only impact how our body reacts during the physical effort, but also after. For instance, after you run a marathon or after I play a soccer game, you have to eat a well-nourishing meal in order to recover from the physical effort. Understanding the nutritional requirements for various activities ensures that we can sustain our energy levels, maintain our muscle rapport, enabling us to pursue and obtain our fitness goals effectively. Now, reflecting on my own journey with food, I've come to view nutrition as a personal passion and a potential field of study for the future. And even if you haven't thought about food this way before, I encourage you to explore the countless possibilities it offers and the significant impact it can have on your quality of life.
And it is really good to know what you consume day to day. Side note, did you know that one of the people getting voted for president is secretly a European spy? Anyway, next up is Jordy on informed and unbiased conclusions on political controversies.
Misinformation is spread 6 times faster than the real news, according to an MIT study. Sadly, this creates problems and strife among a group of people who would otherwise be united. I've seen it with my own family, and its effects are visible with the entire population. So, what can we, as the receivers of information, do to filter out what's real and what's fake? Well, I'm not an expert, but I've developed a few ways that can help us differentiate the real news from the fake news. Firstly, sourcing. You hear it all the time from your family and your friends when you tell them about something new. What was your source? Who did you get your source from? How do you even know what a source is valid? A lot of people would recommend Snopes, which is a great online fact checker that's recognized throughout the world. I, however, believe that Snopes can have its own biases, so we should take our own measures to find what is real and what's not. The method that I would recommend is to check various news sources from many different perspectives and compare them to see what they overlap in. In the US, for example, Democrats will only listen to MSNBC or CNN, and Republicans will only listen to Fox News. if these people were to overlap their news sources, they'd find that they have a lot more in common with each other than they think. Second, priorities. Every source has an ulterior motive, whether it's a news source having to gain income through viewership, or a government having to please its supporters. Every source has some ulterior motive. One thing to do is to keep in mind what potential priorities these sources have while receiving information to see what they could be changing. One group of people that is, I find, undervalued because of how little ulterior motive they have are what I like to call semi-local people. People who live close enough to a point of interest related to news, they have pertinent information on the subject, but far enough that they don't benefit in any way by spreading this information. Thirdly, is common sense. When reading a headline or a news article, don't regard it as fact off the bat. Question it and see what you could find elsewhere. Instead of reading a headline like stabbings in London have tripled in the last year and accepting it, check crime records, read other articles, find other news. And remember, 100% of statistics are made up anyway, so.
Every single day we need to think about what websites, what people we can trust on information. It's things like that we think about every day, but what about the things we don't really think about that often, that impact our day-to-day lives heavily, like bees or international shipping? I know a lot about bees. I don't know a lot about international shipping. I'll leave that to Manuel.
We live in a world where we have every little convenience. Products from all over the world are staples of our lives. We are so dependent on things not made domestically, like most food, clothing, and technology. All of this is thanks to international shipping. 90% of world trade goes through the water, and $14 trillion of goods are shipped yearly. We are so dependent on these routes that if something were to happen to them, what would happen to us? If cheap transportation of large amounts of materials was no longer a guarantee, prices would rise greatly. We have already experienced this during the pandemic. It was much harder to ship due to health concerns. Prices rose greatly, and that was only a minor disturbance. But why are boats the best? Well, to start, they are bound by rails and roads like trucks and trains are, and can instead go anywhere in the world through the oceans, taking the most direct and efficient path. Also, water has much less resistance than ground does, meaning it takes less fuel. Lastly, boats can be massive, while trains and trucks can only get so big. This efficient shipping is important because not all resources are available everywhere. There are mines all over the world creating different types of materials need to make just about everything, and they usually aren't found close together. Raw resources need to go from the mines to the refineries to the manufacturers and to their final destinations all over the world. That's a lot of shipping. So being that products are already moving anyways, and that transportation is so cheap, specializing in the field and becoming the best to outcompete rivals is a great strategy for a nation. Taiwan is an example of a country which has done such. 40% of their exports are electronics and semiconductors. Because semiconductors are so tough to make, require large amounts of specialization and knowledge, and are significantly cheaper to make in bulk, having one country specialize in their making greatly increases global efficiency. Taiwan gets their resources, which come from other countries, which have other specializations, and make the high-value product. And in exchange, get money to buy things they can't make themselves, such as food and clothing. This is a great way for nations to become prosperous and help the world. And cheap international shipping is at the heart of this opportunity. So imagine if all of a sudden it wasn't so cheap to ship. Prices would become much higher, and goods might not even be manufactured at all. And if people started targeting trade routes, like in a war, then it would be much harder to ship. So remember, international stability is a good thing if we want to keep prices anywhere near cheap. Thank you.
Man, it's so wonderful being able to learn so much about a topic you're passionate about. But I wish I had more time to. I mean, as a student, it's kind of difficult. Well, it was kind of difficult before I moved here, trying to find time to learn the things I really wanted to learn. I wanted a personal education for so long, and now I finally get to have it. But not everyone does. Some people are afraid of it. And you know what? When I started, I was a little afraid too. But now that I'm here with all these people, now that I'm able to speak in front of you, I'm able to finally be myself, learn what I want to. I could draw a perfect circle. And I had time to practice that. Anyway, that out of the way. Let me give it up to my friend Maria Elena, presenting personalized education.
I felt out of place. I felt small, very small, as if I were trapped inside a dark box that would only let in a bit of light. This quote is from an optional essay I wrote as part of my application to boarding college. I explained which line of the offer of the college resonated the most with me. I picked to be at home in all lands and all ages. I used this line as a metaphor to convey how I felt at home, how I felt in an education environment that was limiting my potential, discouraging me from exploring my talents and from being unique. The Dominican Republic teaches you resilience and resourcefulness, navigating challenges as a person with a math learning disability, dyscalculia, and having had to access an educational system that lacked specialized training for teachers added complexity to my academic journey. On my first day of high school, it seemed like there was no room for error, no excuses, a constant reminder from teachers telling me that I must perform outstandingly, regardless of my difficulties. You needed to excel at everything. If not, you're not good enough, no matter how talented you might be in other areas. Now, I'm sure that the situation is not unique and not only relatable to me. Many students are currently being faced with an educational system that is not designed for us to thrive in a fast-paced and constantly changing world and society. The skills needed to succeed academically today go past memorization and PowerPoint presentations, among other things. We need to be able to learn specific skills that will never be found in an educational system that remains the same, that refuses to change and is in constant denial of the fact that we need diversity. We need to allow our kids to be confident enough to stand up for themselves and defend their ideas. We need critical thinkers, artists, programmers, and more. We need to help our students fulfill the standards and requirements of education, but we also need to encourage them to explore their interests at a deeper level, to help them stand out as authentic, original, and unique in a world destined to be dominated by technology. So, how does a personalized plan look like and feel like? Well, the truth is that it is different for everyone, but in my opinion, it can look like sunshine and rainbows. A personalized education is tailored to the parents' and kids' likes and wants in most cases. It consists of learning the standard academic subjects a normal school would provide, such as chemistry or geography. The only difference is that it allows it to be approached differently. There is room for exploring specific interests in these subjects without the limiting schedule. You can also discover in depth other topics and courses that might not be available at all in another education environment, such as gender studies, sports nutrition, and fashion marketing. A personalized educative plan allows students to excel beyond their academic experience as they are constantly learning the importance of discipline, effort, and commitment. They learn skills such as time management and balance. Students have the flexibility to be high-performance athletes and creators, and they excel in multiple areas because their passions are being fueled and supported by both their academic environment and their social environment. The steps needed to implement this approach in the student's academic journey are simple. Engage in honest and pragmatic conversations with them. Ask them key questions. How can I, as an adult, help you and guide you toward your goals and passions? How can I better help you understand your subjects you're specifically struggling with? How can you also become more involved and independent? What would you like to explore further? Personalized education is a journey of self-discovery that ultimately leads to personal success. Transitioning to a personalized education allows students to excel beyond their academic experience while meeting the necessary requirements to thrive in higher education and life. My approach to my learning processes and the way that I am as an individual have forever changed. This model instills more confidence and drive. I am much more motivated and have courage beyond words. I feel I am much more whole, and I've understood that there is no need to be like others, no need to fit in, because I now understand that to be at home is to be vulnerable, to be myself at all times, regardless of the challenges that may await me in the path of life. No matter where I am or who I am with, I will remember that I am always at home, because everything that I need to succeed is within me.
It is important to have a support system. It's also important to be able to teach ourselves things, important things like programming, taxes, or drawing circles. But what we really need to teach ourselves day to day is that everything's gonna be all right. And my friend coming up now is going to tell you what you should be telling yourself in the mirror every day. That no matter what, everything's gonna be all right. Presented by Lola.
Everything is gonna be alright. Imagine being raised in an environment that is completely unpredictable, full of love but totally unpredictable. That was my reality, a journey of resilience to people, weather, and hardship. Growing up in a bar wasn't always glamorous. Yes, growing up in a bar. It was loud, eventful, and oftentimes overwhelming. But I learned valuable lessons that have shaped me into the person today. The sandbar, my home away from home. This was my mother and aunt's labor of love built in 2002. The sandbar is nestled on Grand Turk in the Turks and Caicos Islands. It is on the list of the top 10 beach bars in the Caribbean. It is on this list for its views, its vibes, and its service. The sandbar is not just a place of business. It's a community. It's a place to go after work and watch the sunset, a gathering spot for locals and tourists alike. As a child, after school, I would get to the bar, take off my uniform, and run straight into the sea. But sometimes I would still have to help. Put beer on ice, fix the volume, take this change to table 2. Don't let anyone buy Frank any more Guinness. Go say hi to so-and-so, they brought you maple syrup. Eventually, without these orders, I could step in and know exactly what needed to be done. I witnessed the effects of alcohol, the good and the bad. I knew which people to avoid or who and how I could help. These are life lessons that cannot be taught. Learning how to read situations and how to problem solve without all the pieces. I watched as my mom and aunt provided for us with a smile, but I always knew that behind the scenes there was so much going on. And perhaps, most importantly, I learned the power of resilience without even knowing it. The Turks and Caicos are known for many things: the beautiful white beaches, the vibrant sea life, and sun pretty much all year round, except for the hurricanes. I have lived through 2 Category 5 hurricanes, all in the same month. First, Hurricane Irma hit us from the east on September 8th, 2017. Then 15 days later, Hurricane Maria hit us from the west on September 23rd, 2017. My family all have houses that sit on the west side of the island that got hurt by the hurricanes. The sandbar also sits on the west side, but she was not destroyed by the hurricane. She had burnt down 5 months earlier on Mother's Day. Although hurricanes are known for their destruction, it was the only force that could wash away the smell of fire and all the ashes out of the sand. The hurricanes gave us an opportunity to rebuild, not just the bar, but the whole island. We had no power for 7 months, so we had no communication outside of the island. The UK military came to help, but they also gave us a curfew. I can remember when it was too hot to sleep inside, we would sleep on the beach and try not to get caught by the cops. By spring of 2018, with no school and no power, I was sent to live in Atlanta with a family friend. The teachers in my American school did not make it easy. They kept calling me the refugee girl. I didn't know what it meant. It didn't really sound like a good thing, but I was so happy to have power and running water, nothing could bother me. I finally reclaimed my spot as the eldest from coming back from Atlanta. You see, I have 2 younger brothers. Being the oldest is one of the hardest things ever. I have the most responsibility, and people think I'm very mature for my age. I didn't just become like this overnight. I learned it from the bar. I learned how to cope with small things like tourists yelling at me for ice, and big things like surviving a natural disaster. And while the hurricanes have left their scars, they have also shaped me into a resilient person standing before you today. I know my life will throw me its own storms, but my resilience has taught me not just to survive them, but how to dance in the rain with them. Let us remember what Bob Marley said, some people feel the rain and others just get wet.
Before I introduce this next speech, I want to honor someone that couldn't be with us here today. Bryn Wheeler was a kind and brave soul who inspired everyone around her. She climbed the highest mountains for 12 years, and in the end met her maker and got reunited with her fellow angels. This next speech is in dedication to her. Rest in peace, Bryn Wheeler. You will be dearly missed.
There's a popular Haitian proverb that says, De amon, gemon, Creole for, behind mountains are more mountains. While some people see these mountains as hardships to be climbed, Deki sees them as challenges to be conquered. Deki has hope. If you open Google Maps and zoom in on the northeastern corner of Haiti, you'll find a small town no one has heard of, called Fort Liberty. And on the outskirts of Fort Liberty is a community called Kafouchivui. And if you look hard enough in Kafouchivui, you just might come across a young man my age called Deki. Deki doesn't have a birth certificate. He dropped out of elementary school, and he works in the quarries. Because of this, according to the government, he doesn't exist. He doesn't have an education, and he risks his life to help feed his family. The quarries are no place for a child. The work is strenuous and dangerous. Accidents happen, people are killed, and they face perils daily. But these were the kinds of risks that Deki willingly took to help put food on his family's table. With all of the uncertainty and hopelessness boys like Deki faced, they could be expected for them to be tired and downtrodden. But that was not the case. Deki has hope. Even though he had little for himself, Deki never hesitated to share with those whom he felt needed it. The amazing thing about Deki was that no matter how tired he was from work, he would always come to the soccer field to play. Deki was always smiling and finding joy in difficult situations. Deki loved being helpful. When the soccer field was overgrown with wild grass, it was Deki's idea that we and some of our friends clear it by hands with machetes. In 1 week, the grass was gone and we could play again. Without Deki, that wouldn't have happened. Deki had the kind of contagious personality that made it impossible not to feel happier when he was around. I would not be the same person if not for Deki. I see his influence on my life daily. When my grandma died, when I was forced to flee my home country, when I wanted to quit the soccer team, I wrapped myself in a blanket of hope and kept going. Deki doesn't know it, but it's because of him that I don't give up. Sure, we face different troubles, but Deki showed me that even when it seems like the world is against you, you can choose joy and fight to make it a better place. His passion and determination are the reasons that I don't quit, even when the going is hard. You may not have known him like I did. We can all learn from this valiant Haitian boy. Deemon Gemon. There will always be mountains, but we will summit every last one. Always have hope, always be kind, never quit. Decky's hope inspired me. Who's your Decky?
My grandma's words have inspired my entire family. And I remember that even after she died, we would always repeat the words, hallelujah, anyhow. And as the most difficult transition I've ever had to make, but also one I'm very proud to make, because no matter what in life, you always have to find time to smile. And my adopted son will teach you how to laugh. Next up, Noah, presenting laughter.
Why don't scientists trust atoms? Because they make up everything. When was the last time you had a belly laugh? You know the kind where you're crying, laughing, and bent over? Laughter isn't merely just a delightful sensation that tickles our funny bone. It's a profound form of medicine that has a remarkable ability to ease depression, anxiety, and stress. Let's explore laughter's effects on our health and happiness. When we laugh, our body releases dopamine, which acts as a natural mood enhancer, promoting overall well-being. Laughter helps reduce stress, boost the immune system, and improve cardiovascular health. It's also a natural remedy for pain and discomfort. Laughter encompasses a wide array of benefits that extend beyond mere amusement. Not only does it induce joy and uplift spirits, but it holds incredible therapeutic properties that positively impact our overall health and well-being. Laughter is a natural stress reliever. When we laugh, our body releases endorphins that promote relaxation and help to counteract the physical effects of stress, such as elevated heart rate and increased muscle tension. Laughter is a natural mood enhancer. When we laugh, our body releases serotonin, which can bring joy to people even in challenging times, offering a momentary escape from the world. Laughter is a powerful connector, bridging gaps between friends, families, and strangers alike. In conclusion, one thing you can trust is the universal power of laughter. Together, let's start a laughter revolution, transforming lives one chuckle at a time.
It's best to laugh through everything, even your toughest hurdles. Some hurdles you face, people can't even see. Some hurdles are so small that most people don't even understand. But I have a friend that learned how to take their hurdle and make it into a superpower. I'm presenting Samuel, and he's presenting how I made dyslexia my superpower.
I found out my dyslexia was a superpower. Imagine the words you read have to be decoded without you knowing the code. This is the case of me and million people worldwide living with dyslexia. Dyslexia is a learning disorder that slows your learning process of reading and writing. It's like trying to solve a puzzle, but there's a missing piece. I attended a school that my parents owned. They work with kids ages 3 to 5, basically around the time that average kids learns how to read and write. For the majority of kids, it takes a few months to learn the basic, like the alphabet and grammar, but for me, it took 2 whole years. Even though my parents worked with challenging kids in their own way, it was even harder for them to teach me because they couldn't relate to my situation. Because of this, it led to a lot of misunderstanding. A lot of people said I was unintelligent or wouldn't have a successful future. Even teachers believed that I was simply messing around because they weren't aware of my situation. Because of this, it set me back significantly and made me feel unworthy. Because of these people, I felt I was very scared of my future. Even though deep down knowing this wasn't true, this experience made me feel hopeless. Because this was very hard for me and my parents, we decided to look for different schooling options. This is how we stumbled upon ISLA Academy. ISLA has taught me a bunch of ways to learn and be myself. For example, for reading, I often use audiobooks, and for my writing, often text-to-speech to bring my ideas to life. Because of these alternatives, the people who doubted me understood that it wasn't because of me being stupid or lazy, it was because of my disability, and that I had amazing ideas to come up with. But now to the part everyone has been waiting for. How I found out my dyslexia was a superpower. Well, I'm not talking about your everyday Superman or Wonder Woman. They're not even at my level. I'm gonna teach you how you can use your dyslexia to be even faster, more critical, more stronger than any superhero you read in a comic book. Dyslexia thinkers never think one way like everyone else. We think about the endless possibilities. We solve a complex problem every time we read and write. For someone who doesn't have dyslexia, this might sound like the hardest thing ever, but it's not. Just like Superman has laser vision, our imaginary sense is heightened to recognize pictures and characters in an instant. Well, I have dyslexia. What's your superpower?
Today we've learned a lot. We've learned how to harness ourselves in what we do. We learned how to harness ourselves in how we enjoy, harness our struggles and make them our brightest moments. But one of my favorite things to do, as you can see, I like to harness myself in the way I look. Next up is Gaia, presenting Harnessing Hair Power.
Take a moment right now to think about all the steps you took before being able to join us in this event today. What did you do to feel confident enough to leave your house today? How did you dress? And most importantly, how did you do your hair? I invite you to take a journey back in time with me to reminisce and think about all of the phases that we've gone through within our life. When I think back to the lockdown period, I remember that somehow quarantine convinced me that I needed to cut some bangs. So I did, and they ended up being really short. And for the next 3 years, I tried to grow them out. Over time, memories like these build up and make us the person who we are, person who we become. That's why hair is such an important part of our self-image. Makes up who we are. I read about a study recently conducted by the NIH on balding men in Germany, France, Italy, Spain, and the UK. This study concluded that 70% of these men agreed that their hair loss was contributing negatively to their self-esteem. 21 of them agreed that their hair loss was giving them feelings of anxiety and depression. This statistic shows that hair matters to us. And what does that say about our society? Your hair is like your crown. And when you start to lose it, you may feel like a king that's getting kicked out of his own kingdom. We all have that one thing that just always makes us feel confident whenever our self-esteem is caught in confusion. Whenever we can't help but overthink, we have way too many questions. That could be hair for you. You can use it as that tool. Now, let's continue this journey through time and think about some more modern movements. Now, when I say punk, disco, or the civil rights movement, I know that the majority of you in this room probably know a little more than me about these because you were actually there in the flesh to experience them. But the second I said punk or disco, I'm sure you thought of a big round afro or a spiky pink mohawk. That's what these movements use to their advantage. The fact that you could look at somebody and know their political standing, their values, and their beliefs is amazing. There's nothing that can do that in this world quite like hair care. Now, let's go all the way back in time and look at the beginnings of human history. Because this obsession that we have with our hair did not just start today. Now, if we think about African tribes, Vikings, or indigenous people, we see how throughout our history, we can't shake this obsession that we have. Now, looking at the Maasai people of Africa, their signature red dreadlocks, or how Vikings wear intricate braids into battle, or how indigenous people believe that your hair is like an extension of yourself to the outside world. Even though, compared to them, our modern priorities are really different, like Who's picking up the kids from school today? Or did you get the groceries, compared to back then being more like, who's hunting tomorrow? Or how are we going to stay warm tonight? Regardless of that, we can't help but forget our hair. Because that's the one thing that truly makes us human. Now, on our next stop through time, let's think of one of the most prevalent events in human history, the transatlantic slave trade, where 5.8 million African people were stolen from their homes. They had to leave their traditions and the only things they knew behind to be taken by strange people to a strange land far, far away. Once they arrived at plantations in the United States, they knew that they had to find some kind of way to escape. So they chose to harness the most innovative way to get out of the situation, through the one thing that the masters would never be able to understand, their hair. They mapped out intricate escape routes through their braids to leave these plantations, which are now modernly known as cornrows. And as for the corn part, they would braid in seeds so that they could harvest and enjoy the fruits of their labor once they reached freedom. And even now, those same descendants of those enslaved people, and so many people of color in the United States and all around the world, experience discrimination against their hair. And we've seen that it's become a trend that they feel like they have to straighten it or change it to make everyone else in the room comfortable. This simple change can mean as much as landing that job interview or looking professional enough for a position, which is crazy. It's so insane that that is what it comes down to. Your hair, which says even more about our society. But this discrimination doesn't just happen in the workforce, because it starts at school. Everyone gather around, because I'm about to tell you a story. When I was 6 years old, I used to go to a Dominican public school. And every single day, I would go to school with this huge afro, which we Dominicans called a pajon. And I was so different because all the other little girls had these tight buns and braids and twists in their hair. Because I was that different, I got bullied. Just imagine being a 6-year-old walking down the hallway of your school and being told to kill yourself because of your hair. This was the reality that I faced every single day I went to school. One day, I got a letter from the principal's office. Here I am, 6-year-old me, thinking that I'm in big trouble. So I get home with this letter, and I hand it to my mom. She opens it, and it turns out the principal hand wrote a letter to my mom saying that I could no longer come to school with my hair out anymore. To say my mom was appalled is a complete understatement. And so was I. It meant that as a 6-year-old girl, I couldn't come to school being the most authentic version of myself. So the next day, I went to school with my biggest afro yet. That experience taught me to be an expert in how I changed my hair to influence what people may think of me. I aspire to inspire all of you to make a point with your hair. Use it as a tool, because that's all that it is in our society. Do you have something to say? Prove it through your hair. Don't be afraid to let yourself be seen. Don't be afraid to let your hair take up space.
El agradecimiento es la parte principal de un hombre de bien. Nací y crecí en una familia con valores, donde servir y entregarse por el bien común era y es parte de nuestra esencia. Definitivamente el sentido de nuestra propia vida y el compromiso de hacerlo bien. A la vez me enseñaron que servir a la comunidad no solo implica buenos deseos, sino que también se necesitan acciones concretas, lo que significa extender una mano amiga cuando alguien lo necesita y escuchar activamente a los demás. La política y el voluntariado me abrieron puertas y me dieron la oportunidad de marcar una diferencia significativa en la vida de muchas personas. A la vez, me enseñaron a interactuar con personas de diferentes orígenes y circunstancias, además, a comprender realidades que otros enfrentan. He experimentado de primera mano el poder transformador del voluntariado, desde participar en concursos de liderazgo a nivel nacional hasta adquirir oportunidades de empleo. Pero, ¿qué es realmente el voluntariado? Es el regalo desinteresado de nuestro tiempo, habilidades y energía para otros que nos necesitan. Mi motivación con el voluntariado no termina aquí. Quiero exhortar a los jóvenes que se sumerjan en el mundo del voluntariado, que conozcan del mundo del voluntariado y que experimenten, porque el voluntariado es regalarle una sonrisa a aquellas familias que nos necesitan, ya sea con el apoyo en la construcción de vivienda pero mi motivación con el voluntariado realmente no termina aquí. Quiero exhortar y motivar a los jóvenes a que se sumerjan en el mundo del voluntariado y conozcan más acerca del mundo del voluntariado.
Please keep your applause going because this event can happen with some great support. I want to thank Kate from Wildly Digital. Make sure you tag her in every picture you put out there. Don't go anywhere. I want to thank Rachel Amar for supporting us with the team and the owners of El Paraíso. Please give them a big round of applause. To Victor, who is my technical support today, to the administration at ISLA Academy for supporting me, for the teachers to allow me to take all the kids out of class. But keep your applause going for the incredible speakers we had today. Let's bring them up. Noah, Tess, Manuel, Silas, Marielena, Zaire, Ezekiel, Avery, Lola, Luke, Jordy, Samuel, Sarah. Where is she? Come on, Itai. Just because you have a broken arm doesn't matter. And last but not least, your hostess with the mostest, Gabriela.